Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 256 on this Monday, April 1st.
Expo's hat is back. That
Yep.
means she's back in America.
Did you say she?
He.
Oh, yes, I am. Yes, I
My work wife.
Yes, and I know I saw some comments of people were liking this. I personally prefer this. So in a vote of the few viewers who don't like this versus me, sorry, I'm going to win. Anyway.
Yeah, we had Dygate, so I think we want to avoid the controversy and just continue to wear the Expos hat.
There you go. Then now I can do whatever I want with my hair, and it won't be a topic anymore. Today is Monday, April 1st, 2024, and Omar and I discovered we share something in common. Among other things, we both hate April 1st.
Worst day, because people just think it's funny to make up fake stories and news and things of that nature. And unfortunately, one of the stories that some people thought was fake news, it just so happened to not be.
No, correct. Very sad. We'll get to some fake news that were put out there. And I will say this, as I put in reply to your tweet today about April Fool's Day, to me, the only redeeming quality to April Fool's Day is it's my oldest brother's birthday. In the very unlikely event he's watching the podcast, happy birthday, Pep. Love you, brother. Literally.
But is he a joke?
Wow. Wow, you went there. Okay.
What's the worst thing about being an April Fool's baby, do you think?
Probably getting gag gifts from friends who think they're clever. Like you haven't gotten it 85 times already. Now, and I don't want to dive into those silly April Fool's things first, because we need to get serious at the beginning of this show, and this very sad news involving former Dolphin first-round pick Vontae Davis, found dead at a house in Southwest Ranches, which according to WSVN belonged to his grandmother. Davis, first-round pick in 2009, played for the Dolphins 3 seasons, then was traded to the Indianapolis Colts for a second-round pick and a conditional 6th-round pick, which the Dolphins never did exercise. And, of course, the trade became famous more so than anything else for the scene that was shown on Hard Knocks of Jeff Ireland, then the GM, telling Vontae he'd been traded, and Vontae's immediate reaction saying he had to call his grandmother. And being that this is football and it's supposed to be very macho, that didn't necessarily portray Vontae in a great light. I
don't think people really had a full understanding of how you and I, because we knew Vontae and had exposure to him, we absolutely got it. Why? Vontae's grandmother was everything to him.
Yep.
And she was his rock. She was his stability. And so, something important like that happened. She needed grandma to explain it to him and help him feel better. And most people don't understand this, but NFL players, I'm going to tell you a secret. They're really not emotionally mature. They've been football all their lives and don't necessarily do life well, generally.
No, and that was the thing with him, that he had maturity issues, and then eventually he went to the Colts and became a really, really good cornerback for a couple of years with the Colts, made a Pro Bowl in the 2014 season. And it's interesting, I look back at that Hard Knocks clip now, and you see Jeff Ireland talking to Vontae and saying that his career with the Dolphins went like this, and what he needed to do was be steadier for him to reach his full potential. And it was, to a certain degree, with the Colts. And then the career ended, again, on a rather unique note. 2018 season, Vontae's now with the Buffalo Bills. He's inactive for week 1. I don't recall if he was hurt, if it was a healthy scratch. He plays in week 2, and at halftime of that game against the Chargers, it's like, see ya, I'm done. Literally.
Yeah, no, he realized. We had one of those too at Arian Foster. He was realized during the game his heart wasn't in it. He didn't want to be there. And I am totally with Vontae. If your heart's not in football, that's not what you want to do. And it's too much. And I think we see some of that sort of in the line of what's going on with Kendall Lamb, and he's not playing. He said to me adamantly, I'm not playing for a minimum base salary. I put too much work into this game to be playing for that low a salary. If they want to compensate me more, I will certainly be playing in 2024. But Vontae, it wasn't about money with Vontae. He just, and I remember Shady McCoy, LaShawn McCoy. He tells an infamous story about Vontae with the Buffalo Bills team, where he basically just like, yeah, I ain't going back in there. I'm done. I quit. Like, I'm not playing the rest of the game. Like, my career is over at halftime, because he just didn't want to be there. And I would have loved to have talked to Vontae before, obviously, his passing, just to get his perspective and feedback on what went into that decision, because I don't think I've ever heard anybody interview him and have him sort of recap his thought process. But when the game was over with Vontae.
Yeah, I think he just said that his heart wasn't in it anymore. And it's like, okay, if it's not there, it's not there. I mean, again, the sacrifices that these players make to get themselves ready on a weekly basis, if you're not getting anything out of it, nobody can blame them for saying, so yeah. The timing, maybe the timing wasn't necessarily the greatest.
Yeah. I remember Arian Foster said, it was an I Am Athlete interview that he did with us on the daily podcast. And he basically was like, yeah, it was a game. And all I kept thinking about is, man, when does this game get over so I could go back and read this book that I was reading? And I'm sorry, if you're doing anything and that's the thought process that goes through your mind, yeah, you probably shouldn't be doing that, whatever that is, no matter how much it pays you. But
yeah. No, and as it turned out, that second round pick the Dolphins got in the 2013 draft for Vontae was used on another cornerback.
Will Davis? No.
He was a third round pick that year.
Jamar Taylor.
There you go. Jamar Taylor from Boise State, who blew it up at the combine, was a very good player in college, never panned out in the NFL. Had a lot of injuries, never seemed to get right physically, had some decent years with the Cleveland Browns, but nothing great.
Here's my thing about that cornerback class, and I'm not doing this as a Vontae montage. Rest in peace, Vontae. I hope it was something of died of natural causes, no suffering. But remember that Vontae Davis, Sean Smith duo, and I thought that was a very good duo. Obviously,
a lot of talent there.
A lot of talent there. Both of them were very talented players. The Dolphins obviously just decided that they weren't going to invest in each of them moving forward, moved on. I don't even know who replaced them. God. I think we went Brent Grimes after that, and somebody else, whoever played with Brent Grimes. I remember they signed a guy in Joe Philbin's first year who was green, who was horrible. Paid him.
Never made the team. Was Eric Green? It was a cornerback from the Arizona Cardinals. Never made the team. Yeah,
gave him a big free agent contract, and he just was pretty bad. If you think it's easy to find good cornerbacks, just look at where this Dolphins franchise has been for the last decade. When you have a good one, you better hold on to them, and you better continue to invest in them, because you can continue to pick, and you don't know what you're gonna get. You could get a Cordrea Tankersley, you could get Bobby McCain. Remember Bobby McCain replaced McCain?
No, McCain was after that.
That's what I'm talking about. That replaced replaced those two. There was a young batch of cornerbacks that replaced those two, and they were not the same. They were not.
Bobby McCain was in 2015 when they had 4 fifth-round picks. So yeah, I know you're thinking 2012, and I don't remember who it was. What I would want to say
that was Jamar and Will Davis, and then they were here for like a cup of coffee for 2 years. Bobby McCain became the nickel. Then they drafted Xavier. Then the next year they drafted Cordrea Tankersley.
Correct.
It's a hodgepodge of cornerback foolishness.
No, without question. And I said this at the time for a long period of time. And Caterco, who we have a little bit of news on, to me, I said is the best tackling cornerback the Dolphins have had since Vontae Davis. And all the times I've covered the Dolphins, Vontae Davis is at the top. As far as a tackling cornerback, that dude was physical. He was really strong, and he was not afraid, to get in there and mix it up. Very good player. Okay, so in 2012, your 2 starting cornerbacks were Sean Smith and Nolan Carroll. in 2012.
2012, Sean Smith. Oh, Nolan Carroll. Nolan Carroll was here. Yep, he was pretty decent, solid.
And in 2013, that's when they signed Brent Grimes as a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
So, and one last thing we'll say about the situation involving Vontae Davis is, according to reports, there's no foul play suspected. So certainly not going to speculate on the cause, but that's the report, that foul play not suspected. So again, it's very sad. The dude was 35 years old. I mean, say what you want about him as a Dolphin player. To me, he was a good player who could have been actually great. But he certainly was pretty solid for 3 years. Became very good in Indianapolis.
Just a reminder, man, value every single day and take advantage of it. I've literally got a high school classmate of mine, a guy who grew up 4 houses down from me, same age as me, born in the same month as me, had open heart surgery this month. His ticker wasn't working, and emergency surgery, and he's struggling, but he's still alive. And if you got your health, you got wealth, man. There's nothing more important than your health and your mind, and just, keep on living.
Okay. Let's move on to Kader Kohou. You wrote a story for SI.com/NFL/Dolphins on Monday, the old performance-based bonuses where they kind of balance out playing time to compensate for those high playing time, low salaries. They dish out bonuses at the end of the year. They usually release the top 25 in the NFL. And lo and behold, Kader Kohou was there.
Kader Kohou was in the top 5. He was the 5th player. He received the 5th highest playing time incentives. This generally goes to players with minimum base salaries, low salaries, late round draft picks, undrafted players. And Kader Kohou, who made $870,000 last year, he made $878,000 in playing time bonuses. Nice. Because of the amount of snaps that he made. So he basically doubled his salary. Congrats to him. And this is important because it clarifies that, hey, this is a guy who played a lot of snaps. The Dolphins have invested a lot of snaps into Kader Kohou. I think he's at 1,836 defensive snaps the last 2 years, primarily because they believe in him. And while he might have struggled mightily last season, and when I say mightily, he struggled mightily. The hope is that he's grown from it. He's experienced it. It was his first year in a zone coverage. I think a lot of the guys struggled in zone coverage, but primarily every team in the NFL just beat up the Dolphins on crossing routes. And a lot of that was attacking Kader. Remember the Stephon Diggs game that was going at Kader. I believe he allowed 8 touchdowns last season. Yes, 8 touchdowns, 131 passer rating. And I hate to be dissing on Kader, but that he should and can play better. And the hope is that all those snaps that they invested in the last 2 years, you're actually looking at a return on investment in the 3rd season. Sophomore slump was real for him, but hopefully he continues to progress and improve and takes that next step. I think his most realistic competition for that nickel spot is Nick Needham. And Nick is no slouch when he's healthy. But Nick doesn't have the physicality that Kader brings, and Nick certainly doesn't have the toughness that Kader brings. So,
except I think this is where I might suggest that Nick is better in coverage than Kader.
Awareness, recognition, maybe.
Yep. But Kader absolutely. Kader's a very physical presence and a very, very good tackling cornerback. Again, as I mentioned, to me, second only to Vontae Davis, from what I recall. Speaking of quarterbacks, I want to throw out a couple of names here. We're planning on having Tony Pauline, a good friend, to talk draft later on in the week. But a couple of interesting draft nugget that we should mention is that Dolphins reportedly had for a draft visit a CFL cornerback with a very, very interesting backstory, and I want to mention him, and I want to mention another one that's popped up as well. Gentleman's name is Quantez Stiggers, who did not play college football after his father sadly passed away in a car accident while he was getting ready to play his first college season. Fell into a depression. This is according to stories that were written about him. Really got down in the dumps. His mom encouraged him a couple of years after the fact to try out for the fan-controlled football league out of Atlanta. Played well enough that one of the people who involved in that league, who had ties with the CFL, recommended him. Wound up playing with the Toronto Argonauts last year. Got 5 picks, CFL Rookie of the Year. Now he's eligible for the draft, as I understand it. Also, he was at the Shrine Game, where he was also very impressive. This is one of those guys that not typical prospect that some team is going to throw a dart on 6th, 7th round, and maybe you get something. And I want to mention him, and this is along the lines of, and you see like the KC Chiefs just recently signed a rugby player who has no NFL experience. But who's to say it doesn't pan out? The Philadelphia Eagles, I think, drafted late in the 7th round or as a UDFA, a guy who's now become a really, really good starting tackle, Jordan Mailata, played Australian rules football. Okay. And now there's talk, if you guys have been watching the NCAA basketball tournament, the big dude, DJ Burns from NC State, who probably doesn't have the skill set required to succeed in the NFL. Now the thought is like, wonder if a team could like work him out as a potential offensive tackle in the NFL.
Big Baby Davis. I don't like that you said that. I like Burns, and I think he can. There've been fat boys who make the last
one. When's the last one?
Big Baby Davis, Zach Randolph. Fat boys.
Zach Randolph, that dude is big.
So is Big Baby Davis.
And when he sits around the house, he sits around the house. That dude is big.
Hey man, he led his team to the Final Four in the ACC championship. I watched Jimmy Graham transition from basketball to football, and the one thing I watched it up close. Jimmy Graham was like my favorite Canes basketball player. At that time, I used to cover the Canes full time, and I used to harass Frank Haith all the time about Jimmy Graham and why he doesn't start him. And Frank would always say, because Jimmy would foul out in 5 minutes if I started him because of his physicality. Now, if you're physical on the football field, I think it translates over to physical on the basketball court, it translates over to football. But if you don't see that physicality, yeah, most guys who play basketball, especially that size, it's because they don't like the physicality of football. So, but
dude, I mean, the highlights I've seen, I haven't seen an NC State game, so I'm not gonna lie. But the highlights I've seen, the dude throws his body around.
Yeah.
So I'm just throwing his name out there. That the scuttlebutt is that maybe that's out there as a possibility. Because again, this is not me saying it. This is the reports are that his NBA future isn't necessarily all that rosy.
Okay.
And he may decide, let me give it a shot. Maybe, and this is the kind of guy. Those are the kinds of picks personally I like in the 6th, 7th round, as opposed to
maybe undrafted free agent, maybe priority free agent. But I'm not throwing money. I'm not throwing money over there.
Okay, fair enough. That's fine. But some teams might wind up taking a shot. So anyway, keep that in mind. Okay, now I guess let's move on to those. Again, the silliness of April Fool's Day. So this is stuff I see on Facebook from Dolphin fans, or even on Dolphin.
It's fans. Facebook where they tried to hoodwink you people, you old people.
Pretty much, these are like fan pages on Facebook.
I hate April Fools. I hate when
it's worth mentioning because some of them are fun, and we can discuss the hilarity of it. And these are usually accompanied by like hashtag from Adam Schefter, and the @ sign is Jimmy Joni loves Chachi, something like that. So
I'll tell you, the April Fool's Joe tried to pull on me this morning on the Joe Rose show. I walk in for my segment, and he says, and they do a breaking news. Jeff Ireland trades the 21st pick for a 2nd and 2/3. And I thought to myself, it must be April Fool's, because that's a dummy's move. You don't do that right now, not at this point in the draft process, because you still doing some research and you never know. I never make a trade before the day of the draft. I remember Jimmy Johnson used to make those pre-packaged trades and agreements before the draft even started. Oh, hell no. That's why we lost Randy Moss. Yeah. Oh, hell no. I'm absolutely not doing any of that stuff. We could talk tentative stuff, but yeah, no, we're not trading. Here's a little secret. I don't like the trade that got Jalen Waddle. I would have stayed at 3 and took Chase.
See, and me, I love that trade from 3 to 12. I'd have stayed at 12 and pocketed those 2 extra first-round picks. I didn't like the 12 to 6 move. Because even at 12, you know who the 12th player picked in that draft?
No, who is it?
It's Micah Parsons.
Okay.
And then the guy picked right after him was Rashawn Slater, who the Dolphins certainly wouldn't mind having as their left tackle for the next.
Listen, so I would have just stayed.
And Jalen Waddle's very good. I'm not saying anything bad about Jalen Waddle. I'm saying, I
would have just stayed at 3. But remember, the obsession was also about Kyle Pitts that draft, where everybody was obsessed and wanted Kyle Pitts, and look how his career's panned out. So I guess you should feel lucky and fortunate.
2 words for that, though.
Injuries.
Well, no, Desmond Ridder. No offense, Desmond.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yes, I went there. Yes, I went there.
Maybe his career takes off with Kyle Pitts. You're right. I mean, with Kirk Cousins. You're right.
We'll see. If it doesn't this year, then at some point it's going to be like, okay, it's going to be on him. Okay, so and by the way, if the Dolphins can get, what was it, a 2 and 2 threes for number 21? I'm thinking about it. Okay.
No. Absolutely not.
I would think about it. Okay,
absolutely
so these are the 3, and I wrote them down. I'm not lying. I wrote them down.
Now, maybe if it's an early 2 and 2 early 3s, maybe I consider it. Maybe.
Okay. So the first one is, it's a done deal. Tua has signed a 5-year contract for $280 million. Average of $56 million a year, sets a new NFL record. So that
will never happen. So clearly that was a joke.
Oh, all 3 of them were jokes, but all interesting.
Tua is not setting an NFL record for a quarterback salary. It's not happening. It's not.
I'd be surprised. The other one is Tua has been traded to the Minnesota Vikings for their 2 first-round picks, which are 11th and 23rd in the round. That's also not happening because Tua, with all due respect, and this is not me taking a shot, I'm going to preface it because I need to. Tua's not fetching 2 second-round picks if you put him up for trade.
If you put him up for trade and 2 second-round picks are offered, I don't know if I would consider it, but I might consider it.
This was 2 first-round picks.
Oh yeah, two first-round picks. I might consider that. The problem is, what do I do at quarterback this year? And that would mean I'm either going with Michael Penix or I'm going with Jimmy Garoppolo. And
no, Garoppolo's already signed with the Rams.
Is he? Damn. Why would he take a backup job? He's Jimmy Garoppolo. He could have went to New England.
He's suspended for the first 2 games also. Didn't exactly have a lot of bargaining power.
Bro, he's better than Jacoby Brissett. You know that. That guy
in the right system, sure.
That guy is horrible. I don't know why he keeps getting these jobs. I don't know why. Come on.
Because he's a great teammate. And actually, truth is he played very well for Cleveland last year. Sorry. Or was it last year or 2 years ago? No, sorry, it was 3 years ago. Played very well. He was with Washington last year. And by the way, nobody's trading. Nobody's giving you 2 first-round picks for Tua. And then the other one is Tyreek Hill has told the Dolphins he's retiring.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
Not happening. Yeah, because the amount of money he'd be walking away from. No. So these are always the fun one. The fun
146.8 passer rating. He clearly couldn't have played that many snaps.
Who's that? Brissett?
Yeah.
So there you go. How dare you badmouth our man Jacoby? Still bitter because
he played 46 offensive snaps. Come on, stop. What the heck? How did he start 3 games and only play 46 offensive snaps?
He did not start 3 games. He played 3 games.
Played 3 games. Okay, my bad.
Okay.
He's been trash every year since.
And I'm here. Wow, you're harsh. And I'm here to tell you that
I don't like this perception that he was actually good or salvageable. He was bad here in Miami. 78.1 passer rating. That's worse than Chad Henne. Come on, he was Chad Henne level bad.
Okay. And this is the part where, again, I have to apply some context to your And I got the wrong year. I have to apply some context, so you're dissing the poor man like he's not even here to defend himself. So I'm gonna defend him for you. So he started 5 games that year, and the first 3 were against 3 playoff opponents. Just saying that. And then he played against Houston, where that was a hot garbage game. Whew, that was a bad game. If you remember the 2021 game it was Jacoby Brissett against Tyrod Taylor in his first game back after missing 2 months with a hamstring injury. And was not a bad game.
That. Yeah.
Woo! Yeah, Dolphins won 17-9. And then he played like the first 2.5 quarters of the Thursday night game against Baltimore. They won 22-10. Where Flores didn't want to use Tua, eventually wound up putting him in the game. But technically, that was a Brissett win as a starter, if we're going to go there, because they were leading 6-3 when he left the game. So,
knew you were going to go there.
But no, he wasn't great. I don't think he was as horrible as you make him out to be, and he served a purpose because if you recall, the Dolphins would bring him onto the field on 3rd and short to run a quarterback sneak.
Yeah. That just raised more questions than concerns than it actually addressed issues. But anyway, more props to him. He's a Palm Beach native. He keeps getting checks. Keep pimping the system, Jacoby.
And from all accounts, all his teammates always love him. And there's something to be said for that. He's a placeholder in New England. So, and who are we kidding? More than likely, they're taking a quarterback at 3. So. And if the guy develops quickly enough, then Brissett's your mentor backup. And as a mentor backup, he's perfectly fine.
Okay. If you say so.
Sure, whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. I think on that note, we're going to do a live show sometime this week, to be determined. We're hoping to have another friend writer. Yes, we have friends. I know. Shocking, right? Around the AFC East. We're going to do somebody other than Antoine this time. Maybe somebody with the Bills. Perhaps Tom Curran. Maybe. So maybe we can see how he's doing after the departure of Mac Jones.
That's a good one. We should check in on Tom. Old Tom. Yeah. But we look forward to continue to give you all the podcasts and all the news. We are no longer alldolphins.com. We are, go give it to him, Alan. SI.
You're going to find our work at si.com/NFL/Dolphins.
si.com/NFL/Dolphins. And then we'll eventually come up with a jazzy name for the page and the podcast. But that might be too much information for you. But we're here. You know how we are. You know how to find us. And we look forward to being here all week now that Poupard is finally back from Canada. They didn't deport him. All righty, folks. See you later.